resolution, which requires either authorization or a shift in how the operation is classified, even as negotiations with Iran seem to continue. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Now, elections will take place in Israel later this year by late October. Benjamin Netanyahu will be looking to extend his tenure as the country's longest-serving prime minister. But a new opinion poll shows that he is trailing behind two staunch rivals. The new poll says that the Israeli public considers two candidates more suitable for the prime minister's post than Netanyahu: the former prime minister Naftali Bennett and former IDF chief Gadi Eisenkot. The opposition parties have been making moves to ensure Netanyahu's downfall in this year's election. Two major parties, Naftali Bennett's Bennett 2026 and former PM Yair Lapid's Yesh Atid, announced a merger last Sunday. They have formed the Together party to take on Netanyahu's Likud. Bennett will be the prime ministerial candidate for the Together party, and the new polls show that 46% of Israelis consider him suitable for the premiership. And for Bennett, the people surveyed found Eisenkot the next most suitable. 44% of the people polled that the former IDF chief was suitable to be prime minister. Now, after that, there was Netanyahu at 41%. This comes amid Netanyahu's ongoing corruption trials and the constant wars Israel has been fighting since October 7, 2023. But despite their lead in suitability scores, it won't be easy for the Israeli opposition to topple Netanyahu. Israel follows a proportional representation system of elections. Parties need to secure 3.5% of the vote to get seats in the Israeli parliament or Knesset. Now, this leads to coalition governments, which often collapse before their tenure ends. Netanyahu was last toppled in June 2021, but he reclaimed the top job about a year and a half later. It was a coalition between Bennett and Lapid which had defeated Netanyahu in 2021 as well. But that coalition collapsed the following year, paving the way for Bibi's return. Now, Bennett and Lapid have invited Eisenkot to join their anti-Netanyahu faction. The new poll shows that 34% of the public thinks Eisenkot should accept the offer. But if he does, he would have to play second fiddle to Bennett, and he may have to forsake his prime ministerial ambitions. Now, will he join hands with the opposition to further dent Netanyahu's chances, or will the opposition parties fail to form a united front, giving Israel's longest-serving PM a better chance to extend his record? It's yet to see. In other global news, Ukraine's armed forces had confirmed carrying out a major strike against advanced Russian military aircraft at a base deep inside Russian territory. 4 Russian fighter jets were damaged in the attack, and according to the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, the precision strike on the Shakol airfield in Russia's Chelyabinsk region resulted in damage to 2 Su-57s and Su-34 and another aircraft. According to the Ukrainian military, their targeted airfield was located approximately 1,700 kilometers from Ukraine's border. Satellite images released after the attack show service vehicles destroyed and damaged, jets moved into enclosed hangars. The operation is part of an ongoing effort to degrade Russia's ability to launch strikes against civilian infrastructure by neutralizing its most advanced aerial assets on the ground. Now, as Ukraine stepped up strikes on Russia and its military infrastructure, the Kremlin has redeployed much of its air force farther from the Ukrainian border. However, Ukrainian drones are now capable of flying over 2,000 kilometers, do pose a persistent threat to a Russian aircraft deep inside the country. Now, this latest operation follows a series of Ukrainian drone strikes against Russian air assets. In June, Operation Spiderweb damaged 41 aircraft across multiple bases. And in August, drones struck 5 fighter jets in Russian-occupied Crimea. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian city of Ternopil endured a massive Russian assault. At least 36 drones struck industrial site and civilian infrastructure on Friday. Regional authorities confirmed that the barrage wounded at least 12 people and severed power lines. plunging significant portion of the city into darkness. In a bid to address waning troop enlistment and combat fatigue, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced a comprehensive reform of the nation's military structure. He promised higher pay for the infantry and faced demobilization.
The pay for our military will be increased. For rear positions, no less than 30,000 hryvnias per month. For combat positions, significantly more. The pay for our combat commanders will be increased, and substantially so. Through an updated contract system, we can finally establish clear, defined terms of service. This is a fundamental matter of fairness, as it will allow us to begin discharging those who were mobilized early on. By the end of May, all pillars of this military reform, including the legal framework, regulations, and financial structures, must be finalized and approved.
In other news, Turkish drone giant Barka has revealed Mızrak, an new intelligent and autonomous long-range loitering munition. The platform is set to make its public debut at the Saha 2026 Defense, Aviation and Space Industry Fair, scheduled to be held in Istanbul from May 5th to 9th. Now, this comes after it has completed its live-fire test before the announcement. This system has an operational range exceeding 1,000 kilometers and over 7 hours of endurance. It is equipped with a 40-kilogram dual warhead heavy strike configuration and utilizes AI-powered GPS-independent autonomous navigation. Mızrak, the Turkish word for spear, has a maximum takeoff weight of 200 kgs, a 4-meter wingspan, and a maximum speed of approximately 185 km per hour. Visual positioning and built-in optical guidance allow Mızrak to locate and hit targets with high precision, even when GPS is blocked or jammed. Now, as the world races towards automation, China is slowing things down. In the southern city of Guangzhou, the art of handmade dim sum is now officially protected by law, blending food, culture, and identity on a steaming plate. Here's our report on it. Take a look.
From bite-sized delicacies to steaming baskets, the magic of dim sum has always been about craftsmanship. Many dim sum lovers would argue that the best are made by chefs with the steadiest hands, nimblest fingers, and attention to detail. The centuries-old culinary tradition is facing a modern threat. Machines are taking over kitchens. Many tea houses across China are increasingly turning to automated production in recent years to save costs. But a southern city believed to be the birthplace of dim sum is pushing back. Starting this month, Guangzhou has introduced a new regulation. It wants restaurants to keep patrons informed about whether their dumplings are handmade or machine-produced. The regulation aims to protect the intangible cultural heritage of Guangzhou. It seeks to ensure the delicate art of hand-folded dim sum isn't lost in the rush of mass production. Under the new rules, a truly traditional dim sum must also meet a strict freshness standard. It must be served within 24 hours of preparation, keeping authenticity at its center. In a fast food world, Guangzhou is keeping its age-old tradition alive, one handmade dim sum at a time. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, moving on, at least 3 workers have been killed and 1 was rescued after a portion of an under-construction bridge collapsed in Jammu's Bantlab area. Rescue operations were immediately launched after the mishap. The incident occurred when the bridge was undergoing repairs as a tender was floated to restore it. Initial probes suggest that the bridge had its foundation exposed during the repairs, which collapsed due to vehicular movement. The Jammu police teams, along with personnel from the National Disaster Response Force and the Indian Army, were rushed to the incident site for the rescue operation. The officials say that the rescue has continued for nearly 10 hours in difficult conditions as teams make efforts to reach those buried under the concrete and steel. Jammu and Kashmir's Deputy Chief Minister Surinder Chaudhary expressed his sorrow over the loss of lives and confirmed that 4 workers were trapped during the collapse. He added that disciplinary measures are being taken against officials involved and an inquiry has been ordered.
I
am deeply saddened by the loss of 3 lives in the incident. 4 people were trapped, of whom 3 died and 1 survived safely. Rescue operations are underway. This incident cannot be condemned enough. Whichever contractor followed the SOP or not and started such a big project, he should be blacklisted.
Before the Iran war in late February, global oil markets feared a supply glut, with Brent trading under $70 a barrel as American production outpaced demand. Now, this expected surplus was driven by increased production and OPEC quota adjustments. However, immediate threats to the Strait of Hormuz have caused prices to spike over 70% to above $125 a barrel now. Global oil markets have surged sharply, with Brent crude rising to its highest level in over 3 years. Escalating tensions between the United States and Iran has prices jumped nearly 10% in a single session as disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz sparked fears of prolonged supply constraints. The rally in oil comes as U.S. President Donald Trump signaled a hardline stance on Tehran's nuclear program, and as a result, the stalled negotiations further fueled market volatility. At the turn of the year, predictions were for Brent crude to trade in the $50 to $70 per barrel range in 2026. In recent years, global oil markets were experiencing a surge in production, largely driven by the Americas, which threatened to overwhelm demand. However, the base case forecasts now show Brent at well above $100 for the remainder of the year. Fears of an extended blockade at the Strait of Hormuz, a key artery for 20% of global oil, turned the market from oversupply to panic-driven. This transformation from a potential supply glut to a scarcity-driven surge highlights how quickly geopolitical tensions can overcome fundamental market conditions. Even as immediate end to the war in Iran not expected to stop the economic consequences from the historic energy crisis. Now, the most optimistic outlook for Brent this year is pegged at around $80 per barrel, and that is still around a third higher than what was expected at the start of 2026. While currently Brent crude is pricing in a war premium. Analysts say Brent could possibly revisit the 2022 highs of over $140 per barrel as soon as this week, and that is if the Hormuz blockade continues. The benchmark has already gained over 20% this week so far. The latest surge comes even after the United Arab Emirates' decision to leave OPEC, the oil producers group. Ideally, that should have weighed on oil prices on increased supply, as the UAE now does not have to follow a production quota system. However, the uncertainty on when the Iran war will completely end has weighed on prices and offset UAE's OPEC exit. Now, Premier League leaders Arsenal take on London rivals Fulham later today with a chance of go 6 points clear at the top of the table. Remember, the Gunners have just 4 matches left this season. Mikel Arteta's side were briefly knocked off the top by Manchester City, but got back on track after a nervy 1-0 win over Newcastle last week. Remember, Manchester City's don't play up until Monday night. So even though the citizens will have 2 games in hand after Arsenal's match against Fulham, Arteta's side have the chance to really pile the pressure on their rivals.
Maybe, but I think we have enough fuel in the tank. I mean, we're playing to win the Premier League. It's exactly what we want it to be. 4 games to go. It's game 2. I'm ready to go.
Now remember, Arsenal are also fighting for the Champions League title and enter the game on the back of the 1-1 draw with Atletico Madrid in the first leg of the semi-final. Therefore, fatigue might be an issue for Arsenal. Focus now shifts to the Premier League, which Arsenal haven't won since 2004.
It's a lot of factors. That's something that emotionally, for sure, we have to manage in the right way. But I would put the emphasis more on again, showing that desire, that determination, that hunger, that will that we've shown all season and even more, because we have only 4 games to play now and everything is at stake, so it doesn't get better than that.
Now, South Korean girl group aespa's Karina has once again found herself at the center of a disturbing online trend. After a teaser look went viral, AI-manipulated explicit images of the idol began circulating online, sparking outrage and raising serious concerns around digital harassment. The controversy started after Korean's appearance in Lemonade. Teaser grabbed attention across social media. Fans praised her styling and screen presence, with the look quickly going viral. But things soon took an unsettling turn. Several accounts on social media platform X began sharing edited visuals of Karina in the same outfit, altered using AI to make them appear explicit. Even though many users flagged the images as fake, they spread rapidly, drawing message engagement and a flood of inappropriate comments aimed at the singer. Fans did not hold back. Many slammed the misuse of AI and called out the harassment, urging SM Entertainment to step in and take strict action against those responsible. Now, this is not an isolated incident. Karina has faced similar deepfake misuse before in the past. That was also the images being altered inappropriately. Now, fans are once again demanding stronger safeguards to protect artists from this growing form of digital abuse. All right, with that, we call a wrap to World Day for today. News and updates will follow on the other side. Coming up, as tensions persist in West Asia, fresh doubts emerges over Iran-US peace efforts. President Trump has now rejected Iran's latest truce proposal. What this means for the next round of talks, we'll get you all the details on the other side. You're watching WION The World. Stay tuned.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
AI drones that detect forest fires. AI-powered robots that play table tennis. Meta's controversial AI glasses. Is AI out of control? Turn back the clock. Appreciate the classic sound of analog. All this and more coming up on this episode of Tech It Out at these times.
5 states, 1 powerful voice.
From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal,
Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Get the election pulse only on WION. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
Pakistan accused of attacking Afghan university. Kabul Islamabad truce under strain. Nepal's Prime Minister Balendra Shah begins large-scale demolition drive along riverside embankments of Kathmandu Valley. And we take you inside the world's largest mangrove forest in Bangladesh, where pirate gangs are back kidnapping and extorting the people living in Sundarbans. All this and much more on Inside South Asia with me, Kripa.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One with me, Diksha Bisla. Let's start with the headlines. President Donald Trump tells top lawmakers that hostilities in Iran have ended just ahead of a 60-day deadline to seek congressional approval. US leader has rejected the latest Iranian proposal for talks.
You cannot give Iran a nuclear weapon. It's all because they will use it on a place called Israel very quickly.
US President Donald Trump claims military action was needed against Iran to save Israel and others from an Iranian nuclear weapon. Iran has continuously said that it has no plans to develop nuclear weapons. Lebanon's health ministry says 13 people were killed in Israeli strikes on the country's south. Israel has kept up deadly strikes on Lebanon despite the April 17 ceasefire that sought to halt weeks of war between Israel and Hezbollah. Iranian media says at least 14 members of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps were killed and 2 others injured in an explosion while carrying out ordnance clearance operations in northwestern Iran. President Donald Trump talks about the prospect of the US immediately taking over Cuba, suggesting military forces could move on the country on their way back from the war in Iran. The US Embassy in London cautions Americans in the UK to stay alert in public spaces, keep a low profile and review their personal security plans after Britain raises national terrorism threat to its second highest level. A separatist group in Canada's Alberta says it has collected enough signatures to trigger a referendum on whether the province should leave Canada. However, a judge has placed a 30-day pause on validating the petition. In West Bengal, voting is underway for the repolling in 15 booths of the 2 assembly constituencies of South 24 Parganas following the complaints of irregularities. US President Donald Trump says he will raise tariffs on European Union cars and trucks to 25% next week. Accusing the bloc of violating a trade deal, the move escalates trade tensions, with European leaders warning of possible retaliation. Well, the top focus on WION at this hour, US President Donald Trump says he is not satisfied with Iran's latest proposal to end the war. And even as he tells the US Congress that hostilities have been terminated. The White House has declined to provide details on new Iranian proposal. But news site Axios reported US Envoy Steve Witkoff had submitted amendments that put Tehran's nuclear program back on the negotiating table. The changes reportedly include demands that Iran not move enriched uranium from bomb sites or resume activity there during talks.
So they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it, so we'll see what happens. Iran wants to make a deal because they have no military left, essentially, and they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it.
How would it look
Well,
different?
there are options. I mean, do we want to go and just blast the hell out of them and finish him forever, or do we want to try and make a deal? I mean, those are the options.
Later at an event in Florida, Trump said that the United States would not exit its confrontation with Iran early and then have the problem arise in 3 more years. Well, Trump also made another argument for Iran having a nuclear weapon. Listen to this.
You cannot give Iran a nuclear weapon. It's all, I think, you can. Because they would use it on a place called Israel very quickly, and they would use it in the Middle East, and they'd use it in Europe, and I guess we'd be next, and it's not going to happen. Don't worry about it.
Meanwhile, the American president has written to US Congress that a ceasefire had terminated hostilities against Iran. The letter comes just before a 60-day deadline which mandates Trump to seek congressional approval for the war. Now, according to Iranian state media, Tehran delivered a draft proposal to mediate Pakistan. But Iran's foreign ministry has cautioned against expecting quick results.
Our negotiations with the United States are not conventional or ordinary negotiations. They are negotiations with a very bloody background. At this point, I can no longer even speak of a wall of mistrust. In fact, we can't even say the issue of trust in relations between Iran and the United States. The problem with the American side is that it has always expected to impose its maximum demands during negotiations and throughout the entire diplomatic process, pushing the other side to accept them.
Though the United States and Iran have suspended hostilities since an April 8 ceasefire, the two countries remain at odds over a range of issues, including Iran's nuclear ambitions and control over the Strait of Hormuz. The two sides have yet to agree to a second meeting following a brief summit of the senior officials in Islamabad last month. As Israel continues to pound Lebanon, Hezbollah is adopting newer methods to counter. Now the group has launched new fiber optic drones which are widely used in the Ukraine war. These drones are small